Hey, Haven just came back into rotation, and so I'm going to do an Omen guide on Haven. It's been almost a year since my previous one, so I kind of want to bring it back and try to streamline it. So the first smoke is going to be this one. We're going to start off on defense on C. And this is like the main smoke. It's a very popular smoke. Everyone knows about this smoke. What everyone may not know, though, is that this smoke really relies a lot on the timing of this smoke to actually be truly effective. So one of the main premises of Valorant is to try and get kills with your utility, right? Force the enemy into bad positions or force them into a way that you can get a kill, right, with your utility. That's how utility is mainly tried to be used. Otherwise, you're just going to be delaying them, and delay tends to be not that good in solo queue. So how does this work? What timing do we use? So what we want to do is when the enemy team is coming into C, we want to time this in such a way that the first player is going to be out and past the smoke, while the rest of the team is going to be either in the smoke or on the other side of the smoke. Also, what this means is that they are forced to minimap refrag, and in some cases as well, this can be combined with like killjoy mollies or even your own paranoia, to force them back into the choke point and keep them there, while this one player or two players are out onto site taking fights. And it means that they can't get the support they need on site from the rest of their team, and it can help you get free kills. This is how you get kills with this smoke. Obviously, sometimes not always just from the smoke, as I've already mentioned. Mollies, paranoia can definitely help. When it comes to like TPs on the site as well, you can TP up top and you can play a high-low. I prefer to do this on retaking, not on actual like defending the site. It tends to be a lot worse that way. And then we go for another smoke. So this is a different smoke. This smoke is very similar to the one on Ascent on A, where it kind of splits the back side from the front side, and it just basically means there's another box of space. So you can see this is like one box, right? And then there's another box of space over here, or like backside. And what that means is it's going to split up their util in such a way that they might need to use more utility to get backside, right? Because this smoke exists. It may also mess up the timings of the refrags or like the trades, and also make it just generally harder for this person backside to die, because it eliminates more angles for them, and it means that they're more likely to get some 1v1s that they might win, and then make the retake easier for the rest of their team, as they went 2 for 1 instead of 1 for 1. Right, that kind of stuff. That's what this smoke is used for. You can use it in even more ways as well. You can have a shorty in the smoke as well. Ideally, you don't get spammed. There's a decent chance you might, though. And this can help you get a kill if they aren't particularly, or maybe they're a bit lazy with checking the site. So yeah, those are some of the ways you can play on C. Some of the things you can do on C. When it comes to the ult, I'm not going to talk about the ult too much. It is very, very situational the way you use it. On defense, it's usually you're going to flank on post, or you're going to be like bolstering your actual like original anchors to kind of help them and help them trade basically, and make the retake a bit easier, similar to how you would flood on other or not on other maps, like in other situations. So next we go on to garage, and in garage this is the usual smoke that you're going to do. There's not really too much else you really do in garage. With this smoke though, I very rarely use it. It's very rarely used to like get kills. You very rarely are going to get kills with this. So what actually happens is I'm going to use this smoke. I'm actually going to use this smoke when I play with it. So I'm going to have like a judge. I'm going to have a judge. I might sit in it, might not. Might sit like this instead. Might sit over here instead. It kind of depends on what I want to do with that. Although the main draw of this smoke is to use this smoke here. And to flash this line. And what you can do, you don't always have to flash this line, but you can go and do plays like this and catch players in this corner, or alternatively, maybe at the start of the round, what you can do is you can use this smoke and go and TP on the window. This is a very unexpected TP that not many people expect, and the thing is that if they have a lot of presence over towards A and tend to have like a sort of flank presence or like lurk presence over towards A, then what you can do is you can usually sneak past like maybe potentially a lazy killjoy turret over here, and then walk all the way through, and they won't expect the flank to be that fast. And that's happened a couple of times, and I think it is actually potentially viable strategy. Next is B, and on B, exactly the same thing as the C like main smoke, and this will kind of be the same aside from A. I will talk about A though. On B, it's kind of the same as the C smoke, where you kind of want to time it in a way that you might get a kill on a single player coming out or two players coming out. You can also use paranoia to do things like this, and you can also TP on these boxes like this. Usually this is going to be smoked by the enemy like this and like this, and you can TP on this box from here, TP on those, TP on there, and usually you can combine this with flash. You can do it so you can TP on this, and if you have trigger discipline, you can actually wait to get these kills because they'll be blinded. And sometimes as well, especially at lower elos, they're not going to put the bomb on the right person, and they're going to be very slow to plant the bomb on B. It's generally quite fast to plant the bomb on B usually, but the lower elo you go, the harder it's going to be probably, or the slower it's going to be. So you are more likely to get this position where you can trigger discipline someone over here, and then kill the bomb planter, and it can when they come over here, go 2 for 1, or even just win the round straight up from that position. Yeah, that's kind of how I would see like kind of defending B. Basically, or like that's kind of like more like flooding. A lot of the time you don't really directly defend B, to be honest. It's not really one of those ones where you want to like hold on to it a lot, because it's super easy to retake because of the way the mains are, and also how easy it is to kind of flank back into mid with garage, and also a flank from A can also really help. Next is A. Defending A, we'll start off with the original block basically, which is over here. And the first thing I want to say is you do not want to block this sideline from yourself. You do not want to put a smoke here in any capacity as a defender, because you want to have this info. Because this info is essentially the meeting point of these two strings of like these two paths basically. And so if you can see the meeting point, it means if you're here on long, you can see if anyone goes short, just because you have like this line of sight, right? So you want to make sure you don't block yourself off. This smoke is a bit more viable though. The reason why it won't be viable, though, for the most part, is that this smoke becomes obsolete at the very start because they can just walk past it. But if they don't tend to have any A presence, you can use this smoke in conjunction with being in short like this, and you can have a fairly safe way to control this area. You want to make sure the smoke doesn't bleed out too much though, because if it does, then they can potentially sneak past you. You want to be holding it kind of like this or like this. A lot of the time, people won't sneak out this side of the smoke. They usually sneak out this side of the smoke, or at least attempt to, at least in my experience, but that could be wrong. It's anecdotal. Next is we're going to bring it further back, and we're going to look at like the mains basically. One thing that you can do on short is I like TPing up onto this box sometimes. It can be very, very high pressure against the short players, but you also can be on the ground for this too, which is this one way on the door frame like this. And yeah, as you can see, it's really strong. Like there's no way they're going to get through here without you killing them basically if you're watching this. It's also really good on the actual box too. It's also completely fine. You can go on this box too. I just think overall this is less pressure for the long players than it is for this box for the short players. And then the smokes for the mains are these. Bear in mind, or I guess you can also do it deeper as well like this. Bear in mind that these generally have less, like you're not really looking for kills with these because there's like two places they can come from, and it can be really difficult to time these in such a way that it isolates the first player fully because of the way that you place your smokes. Brimstone, for instance, will have Brimstone like Clove. They'll have a lot more ability to do this. Harbor, Viper, like the ones that can put up their smoke in both places instantly, will definitely be able to follow that type of premise that I was talking about on C. But not so much Omen, because you have to place them one by one. It can be a bit harder, a lot more ingrained in like where you think they're going to go from first. So usually you will be placing the long smoke first because it tends to be the higher pressure one to smoke. This one tends to be the less important one to smoke. So you're going to be smoking this one last. And when you do these smokes for your teammates. And that's kind of it. There are paranoia lines here for long. And there's paranoia lines over here as well for short if you want to do this for a teammate. And that's kind of how you're going to play out the defense, aside from the retakes, which we'll talk about now. So for retakes on A, one of the things that I like doing personally, I'm not sure if it's actually really that good, but I do it, and I've seen other people do it, so it's probably fine. Paranoing under like this and TPing here. You have to bear in mind that if someone's in this corner, you're probably dead, but for the most part, if they're going to be blinded here and not knowing that you've TP'd here, there should be free kills. So you need to make sure this is free. Hopefully a Sova dart or something drone will help you to clear that before you make this play. You can also blind this as well, and then do the same play. You think they're in that corner and not in here. Obviously, if they're in here and you're blinded here, you're probably dead there. But yeah, it's just there's options you have out of CT. Personally, though, I prefer this the most. When I can, I will retake from heaven. I'll place a smoke here and TP into the smoke. Tap the bomb. Tapping the bomb super fast in the retake really gives the enemy team a sense of urgency that they need to check the bomb. When there's a smoke on it, they're just going to have to spam, right? And if they're spamming, they're not holding angles, and it can be really difficult for them to then readjust if a teammate is then just going to swing them from their spam, right? it can be really difficult for them, for the enemy team, to play a retake when you've just tapped the bomb, and you have the options to also come out anywhere in this smoke, to a point where they probably don't really want to be spamming the bomb as well. So they will have to kind of creep up to it, or have like lineups available that guaranteed hit this, because otherwise they can't really check the bomb. So I recommend you basically always smoke on top of the bomb when you're retaking with a controller. It's most of the time, like 99% of the time, it is the best play. Better than smoking the choke points like this, because generally you want to be owning the smoke. You don't want to give the enemy ownership of the smoke so they can use it on their timing, and basically you basically give them the smoke to take that fight, and it's just not that good, right? You give them the way to pop flash as well. If they have flashes like this, right, you're giving them a chance to walk up to the smoke and pop flash through and that kind of stuff. With this one, they can't do that, right? It's you that own the smoke, and them running up to a smoke to pop flash inside it is much worse than pop flashing out the smoke. I think that's probably over-explained, but there you go. Next is B. Retaking B is basically a lot of the time what you're going to be doing on B. So there are 3 smokes to take note. The first one is the one I won't do, ever. This one is basically always bad, in comparison to the 2 smokes. This one is pretty much always bad. The reason why is because if they are over here, first of all, you've smoked yourself off into a choke point, which is not good. And you've given them the opportunity to walk into the smoke a lot easier than if you did it on top of the bomb like this. You also don't give yourself, and this one gives you like the options to like walk out any side of the smoke to fight anyone close. So you don't actually have to like go out a choke point basically. The other smoke that is kind of viable, and there's one specific reason why it's viable, is this one. And I know I said not to smoke the chokes. There's only one reason why this one is viable. And it's because of one simple reason, that a lot of people will play in a window, and if they have like very little chance to run out and try and get into this smoke is good. If they don't get into this smoke is good versus those window players. The reason why is because you can come out any part of the smoke, right? Maybe you want to bias it a tiny bit this way as well, because you don't want to be too tight over here. And basically what this means is that you can swing the window from anywhere in the smoke, right? Any side. And it makes it so much harder for them to justify spamming the spike when you tap it. Because if you've tapped it and then just walk over to the smoke and peek out the side while they're still like thinking about spamming this, they're dead, right? They're dead. So this smoke is really good if they aren't playing close to this smoke and they're playing more around the window. If they tend to play a bit closer, then you want to be prioritizing a smoke more deep like this, so you don't give them ownership of the smoke, and you can sort of take ones with this smoke a lot more effectively than the one outside. And just simply stay away from this smoke. Okay, so next is Retaking C. So from CT, there are a couple things you can do. Paranoiaing default is pretty good, and TPing on top. This can lead to you getting a kill on default and playing a high-low with your teammate here. In this situation, I wouldn't smoke the bomb necessarily, because I want my teammate to tap the spike, and then we play a high-low and hopefully get a 1-for-1, or at least, or ideally a 1-for-0, where we just win the round. But obviously, it's most likely going to be a 1-for-1, because this angle that your teammate's probably going to be playing isn't too great for them usually. And yeah, you should be able to get the freest trade though of your life. And then once again, smoking the bomb is pretty good. Most of the time, 99% of the time, smoking the bomb is usually better. Even after this, right, once you get the kill on here, if there's still people alive, dropping down and smoking the bomb and tapping, brilliant play. Usually, most of the time. And this smoke, once again, just allows you to go out any side after tapping the bomb. It gives you ownership of the smoke. You can take the fight. They can't take the fight on their own terms. You take it on yours. If you do this one, same thing applies, right? You're smoking the connector. They have the choke point, and they're going to have the ownership of the smoke. They can choose the timing of the fight. They can choose to pop flash out. They can choose all these things. You want to have the choice. So that's kind of like how I see this. They can backside as well, so you can also do a paranoia like this as well, just in case. And there's also times when you're going to be through garage, and you can do paranoias like this to have your CT players get out if they're on like stage or something, or fighting on this angle, which tends to be quite a common thing to do when people fight on this angle. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the retakes. If they do have like a lot of things going on, like a lot of players like super far back, generally you're not going to be like going down and hunting them unless you have a lot of time. But you can use like TPs in some sort of situations to like gain distance to kind of help you have more time. Just be careful, because obviously this is not a safe TP if someone's over there, right? This is not a safe TP, especially because if you TP short like this, this player's going to kill you. So you want to be careful with your TPs and like gaining space on them if you need to push them. If they have like a lot of lineups, for instance. But yeah, generally this smoke will be enough if they don't have all those lineups. And that's it for the retakes. I'll go on to attack. Okay, so we start off with C on attack. And with C, there's a specific path I do when I'm rushing. And I generally just slow it down when I'm not rushing. So I'll do the path first, and I'll talk about the reason why we do the smokes. So the first one is this. We're going to smoke this off the barrier, and then we're going to run over here, go into this corner, flash the right side line, which is a really strong line to flash, and then we're going to do this. As you can see, I'm on site as my flash is popping. Bear in mind, I'm probably going to be like the second, third person on site with this path, which means that the first person is probably going to be over here as this smoke pops. So that means, okay, you want to smoke better than me, first of all. You want to smoke a bit more to the right here. Just so this gap isn't like too egregious and the people on top of here can't see into sight. So you want to make sure you smoke correctly, unlike me there. And what I was saying was the first player out is going to peek this as the smoke pops. So they aren't going to be fighting that. They're going to be able to clear sight without the smoke, with the smoke there, on the perfect timing. So bear in mind, take note of that path. I also talk about it in my 5 mistakes you make with Omen, and not having paths going into sights. Which is very, very important to have on every character, not just Omen. So that's kind of how I go in when I'm rushing, and it tends to be a slower version of that when I'm doing something else. Sometimes it can be stuff like this. This is a good default smoke that you can do to sort of take C long first and then take the site. The reason why we smoke out like this is because what happens is we can peek out of any angle. You may notice this from the retake things. This is a pretty common theme with how strong it can be. Using smokes to your advantage. This is one of the most common things that you can do for smokes. So also talking about like TPs and things as well. You can TP out as well and dodge like killjoy util. TP here is really good and TP here is good. Not on the stage. Off the stage like this. Yeah. Is good. Other paranoid lines you can do, technically you could do this one. Bear in mind you're likely to flash people in front of you over here if you do this one. This one is a lot safer to do, and in my opinion this is a more powerful line for the enemy to sit on, so pushing them off it is really, really good. Also I'll go back to talk about this smoke real quick, because this smoke has a sort of like a thing to talk about with it, mainly with the corridors like this, and this can apply to any corridors like this. That kind of makes sense. Let me go a bit more. So this smoke can be really good, right? The reason why it might not be good sometimes though is because if they have like something like a pop flash, like a KO, a Phoenix, a Sky, just to name a few, and what they can do is they can just flash out the smoke in this situation, right? They can right click flash, a Phoenix can do his normal flash, Sky can insta pop a bird. If you go over here, Phoenix can't flash out the smoke. He has to walk out the smoke to flash around the corner, or he has to flash out the smoke and it's going to get a very small portion of what's in front of this corridor. The Sky Flash will have to go out the smoke, down the corridor, and then round the corner probably, which is going to take more time, and you're going to be able to turn it pretty easily. Same with the KO Flash. KO Flash, Pop Flash is either going to be a very small radius, going to be a very small impact outside of the corridor because it's going to be limited by the 2 walls, or you're going to have to left click it, which is a lot easier to dodge. So, and that's just to name a few, right? Other flashes exist in the game that also have this problem when you smoke like this. So I would smoke like this. Against good flashes like pop flashes, and if they don't have any, you can just smoke like this if you want to. You can even smoke like super deep like this, and what this does, even though it does allow them to come through the smoke faster, what it does as well, if they're really scared of going into the smoke, say if you take it quite fast and you take C site quite clinically, then it can be really scary for them to try and walk into this smoke. And it might even pressure them to not be in garage because of how many angles you can peek out this smoke with. As you can see, like, once again, there's the smoke past the angle, and now I have multiple angles to peek things with, right? And sometimes that can be really scary. It's not ideal, and all it is pressure. I'm very rarely going to actually peek this. It's just pressure that it provides for the people in garage. So next, we'll talk about post plant for C. I'm going to just do post plant. I'm going to do post plant for each site as we go, instead of previously on the fence. So post plant on C, for the most part, you probably are going to be playing towards long. If not, you're going to be doing things like back site and TPing out of bad situations. You might try and get a kill here and TP away, and that kind of stuff can be quite strong. There's also things like one-waying the bomb, which is also kind of good. If the enemy smoker is alive, the one-way is less useful because they're probably going to be smoking the bomb. If they are dumb and smoke like this, then what you can do in response, which is what I usually do in response, is I smoke like this. To be fair though, I also smoke like this anyway when I'm in retake situations, because what it does is, as you can see, very similar to how I was talking about the default smoke. In a retake situation, if you own the smoke, how do the people on site react to this? Like, they have so many angles they have to worry about. Bear in mind as well, if you're in a 2v2, for instance, and you have like a KO on your team, or you have someone with a pop flash on your team, and you give them this smoke to pop flash out of, I'm pretty sure you're going to win the retake majority of the time with this smoke. Because how on earth do they win this? They have to walk into the smoke and fight you in the smoke to have any chance of winning this, I think. So yeah, that's kind of how I would play the retake on C. Obviously, this is just like a baseline. I'm not saying you should play the retake 100% of the time like this. I'm just saying that this is like generally a good rule of thumb to go by. And that's kind of like the whole, honestly, the kind of whole guide really. The whole point of the guide. Okay, so B, next is B. And the two, or like mid and B really. So the two smokes you'll know is probably going to be this one. There's this one to like sort of stop players from coming out of garage. There's also this one to kind of stop players from B or peeking B. Mainly operators. Bear in mind they can still get on the top bit, so we want to be careful of that. Who are like operators and things like jets. And yeah, this is just to take mid. If you want to take B, so if you want to take mid, like actual mid as well, like garage, you can do this too, which will lead to a C split usually. So yeah, that's kind of it for that. You can also TP into here and things as well to help take garage. Just be careful with where you're actually TPing. And there's not really any great paranoia lines that are really particularly useful in garage. Most of the time you're just going to be TPing in or smoking, using the smokes. Yeah, letting your teammates use their util to get in. For B, there's going to be this and this, which is very useful, very normal smokes for both the links to help take the site. Generally, you're going to be doing this on ecos, so you're not going to be using too much. If you do have a paranoid that you want to use, you're going to be doing it on one of the sides, usually where either an enemy plays normally, or it's going to be off sound. Is usually how you want to do it. If you want to just get a fast plant, you're a really good candidate for that fast plant because you can just TP in, plant the bomb, TP in. Okay, so that should be it for attacking B. Just going into B. You can obviously TP on top of here as well and things and do that sort of stuff. I personally don't like this stuff. You tend to be taking fights a bit too soon. And a bit in places where your teammates can't really follow up unless they're like ready to follow up and you're communicating that. Otherwise, I don't really like TPing on top. When it comes to the actual retake part, post-plan, one way in the bomb is also a viable strategy unless their controller's up, in which case it usually is not as viable. You can do, there's not really, actually, to be fair, I wouldn't even recommend doing this smoke, despite it not being good for defense. I actually don't think it's good for either of you, realistically. Recommend maybe using a smoke to do something crazy. Maybe you do a smoke like on the side like this and TP into it if you're in like a particularly bad situation. Otherwise, you might just want to hold the smoke or keep refreshing the one way on top. That's kind of how I would see it. So yeah, that's it for the retake. Let's go on to A. So on A, there's a couple things that you can think about doing. First of all is this TP. This TP is pretty good if you want to fight long with your teammates because you're basically fighting two angles. Like, you're fighting both of these angles at once. It means it's super hard for this person to play because they've got two people peeking them on like the same angle, like at the same time. So it can be really, really difficult for them to live in that situation. Another thing you can think about doing as well at the start is this smoke. This smoke is a good default smoke. Would not recommend this when you're rushing. This one actually gets flamed a lot on solo queue for me, even when we're defaulting. I don't really know the reason why. Lots of people don't really give me good reasons. But if you're one of these people that don't like this smoke in solo queue, let me know. I think this smoke is really good. You just get to take long. And then if anyone's like in the smoke or close to them, as long as we've taken long, they're basically dead. So I don't really know what the reasoning is for not liking this unless we're rushing. I understand rushing because we're losing one smoke. And really, when we're going A and rushing, we want both smokes over here. We don't want to smoke here. And obviously, we don't have enough time for it to recharge. So it obviously makes sense. So yeah, let's talk about the actual site. Because there's not really any smokes we can do for short, really, for attack. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the normal smokes on A. So these two. These are the normal smokes on A. And yeah, that's pretty much how you're going to take. There's TPs on the site you can do. One from short over here. There's a couple over here. Actually, you can do some over here if you want to. You can go all the way far back. You can go on the site. There's plenty of good ones you can do. You can go on top of the box over on short as well. On these boxes, wouldn't recommend them really too much. If you want to get super crazy after this smoke, you can TP in here. Bear in mind they're going to own the smoke, so you probably are going to die after this or during this. So be careful of that. You can do a smoke like this and TP into it if you want to. But generally what I would do, if you have a jet, if you have a jet and they can smoke dash onto site, TP into the jet smoke can be really strong because there's two of you inside that can help each other, and it really alleviates like what this main smoke is trying to achieve, right? It's trying to achieve the first player out or second player out can't get the help that they need, right? And TPing out with your jet is going to give the jet someone to play off. It's going to give you someone to play off as well. When it comes to retaking, or like the post plant, right? A lot of the time, there's going to be a one-way once again on this site. They will actually put a one-way on every single site for the bomb on this map, which is just crazy, to be honest. There's obviously all these angles you can play as well, which can be fine. You can re-smoke things as well. Okay, me from the future, real quick. I couldn't get back onto Valorant, which is a bit annoying, but from this position, I was going to show that you can paranoia from this position, and it's also a very common position to paranoia, like this line, basically. And let's say this area, you'll see it on like Breach as well with his stuff as well, like the fault line and the aftershock. This is a good paranoia spot for like under heaven. Re-smoke things like this, cover going out, which is also fine. You can also do things like this smoke as well at the choke points, which is also really good actually as well. To kind of give you a place where you can peek out and contest the bomb in many different angles. I think this one long is better than the one on short, to be honest. And so I think that's it for the guide. When it comes to like the ult as well, I don't think I really talked about the ult that much. On attack, is good for when you want to retrieve the bomb as well in some sort of situations. It's good for when you want to just flank. It's good for like creating pressure and TPing elsewhere to your team, like back to your teammates, or just like trying to find a late lurk somewhere by TPing behind the enemies. Midway through the round or half, or like at the last like quarter of the round. So yeah, that's kind of it for the guide. If you have any questions, or if you have any comments, if I've missed something, then feel free to leave a comment talking about that stuff. And I'll see you in my next one.